Hello, my name's Jose. Right now I'm sitting in a global MX5 Cup car, and I wanted to do a little video on why this car has been so important and kind of just a personal connection with me and the MX5. When I was growing up, my dad had several Miatas, and he would take me to school in a red Miata, and from an early age I really became in love with that car. So it's funny now to be able to get on the sim and race this car every single day. It's also cool, here in Florida, at least between Farah and the Global Mazda series. So there's a lot of activity that goes on with this car. There's a lot of series that goes on with this car. So it's probably one of the most accessible ways to get into motorsport. When it comes to the sim, it's also probably the way that most people start getting into iRacing and getting into sim racing. They're usually starting off with the MX5 if you're doing the road course stuff. Most people that start off are going to start off with that, and that's where the driving technique is going to start to develop. It's interesting now that I've been on iRacing for a little bit over 5 years, I think, driving everything from Formula 3 to LMP3 and GT cars, and now I'm going back to the MX5. I keep saying going back to basics, and now that I have seen kind of how other cars perform on track, now going back to the Miata where it's a lot of momentum. You have to keep up the momentum, and you have to, be able to comfortably throw the car around. Being able to do that in the Miata, it's probably going to be the easiest way to do it on the sim. Most of these cars that are on the sim, they're hard to get around a corner to begin with, let alone get around fast. So with the MX5, with good, a good system, a good force feedback system, you're going to feel that same level of detail that the same car is going to produce. I get to, work with a lot of people that run MX5s, and they say that at least in the sim, the way I have it set up, the MX5 feels very similar. So it's interesting, and it's also good for me because, again, I've never had the chance to be on a track. So knowing that from them, the MX5 and the sim feels very close and very similar, that gives me some hope that I'll be able to transfer that into the real car. Hopefully this year we'll be able to take out another MX5 at Homestead and do a track day. I decided to go back to the MX5 now after a little bit over 5 years of iRacing. I wanted to get into something that was going to be much more competitive than the GT3 stuff. The GT3 stuff for me, I've always struggled in a GT car. I wanted to get into something that I was going to be able to do a lot more often, and iRacing, that series, the MX5 series, that goes on every hour, which helps. And then I also got lucky that I have the OEM MX5 wheel, so being able to put that on, the whole sim feels, it feels really cool. It feels cool. It feels immersive. Same thing with the sequential shifter. I shift with the sequential at home as well, and fortunately, I'm in a lucky position where I get to play with this car, and I get to sit in here and take a look around and take measurements and grab as much detail as I can on what the FOV looks like. And if you're hearing stuff, we are in an active shop, so there's people walking around and talking. So, but anyway, the MX5 that's here, it's the exact same one that's in iRacing. The same, sequential shifting gearbox, which they recently changed over to, and the same AIM MXL2 dashboard that runs the exact same way in the sim. So everything feels very similar. It's the same OMP. What is this? The HT ER seat. I'm running an ASR at home, but everything feels, pretty much just like the sim. It's a little bit lower than I'm used to sitting at home, but I'm sure all that stuff, can be adjustable. I think that this wheel could come down just a little bit, but all of that stuff depends on, I guess, how it's supposed to be set up for track use. So if you're somebody that's new, that's just getting into iRacing, highly recommend the MX5. Not only because it's a free car and it's the most accessible way to get started with iRacing, but it's also going to be, I think, the car that's going to help you develop the most skill. Between the MX5, the Formula V stuff, and like the Skip Barber, those cars where you really have to push and keep momentum up, those cars are really going to teach you something. And then from there, hopefully, if you're somebody that's trying to make the jump into a real race car, then being able to get into an MX5 with us or whoever, that's going to be able to hopefully transfer a lot easier and a lot faster from the sim into a real MX5. So as you can tell, I'm extremely passionate about this car. It's been it's held a special place in my heart for, my entire life. 30 years now that we've been playing around with MX5s, and probably a little bit over that, a little bit over 30 years. So yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one. And for the heck of it, we're going to turn this on and rev it.